Asked who's doing your ERC. Explain related parties to me. If they can't explain related parties, this could be the biggest mistake ever because you're getting credit on wages that do not qualify. And if they don't talk to you about what's on this piece of paper, then I recommend they not do your ERC. In this video, we want to talk about the biggest mistake in the ERC, and that's family wages. They do not qualify, they're disqualified. In order to understand what we're going to do, it's very complex, but I was talking to John, my son-in-law, and I gave him a live example. I said, you know, John, you work for me, you're dating my daughter. We're not related. So your wages I'm paying you qualify as long as it's not for PPP. But I said, then when you got married to Laura, guess what? You're now a related party, your wages don't qualify. So I think a real world example like that kind of gives us an overview of where we're trying to reach, because people don't think about it. We're going to focus what we call running the bases in our video. We're a qualified business at first. We've met one of the tests.
Right.
Now we're up at second base, and this is, with us doing these, this is the toughest part, is what we call second base. We're now know, at first we're a qualified business, at second, we need to know what qualified wages are. And this is the biggest area of work and the biggest mistake being made on the 941s, the amended 941s, the 7200s, down at third base when we fill out the form. What happens is that I don't think people are even thinking about this.
No.
So what is this? What's this big question? What is, quote, business family? Or in our tax world, it's called
related parties.
Right. And related parties has been around since the code in 1954.
Right.
So it's not new. The other thing we got to remember, this is worth going through the pain, because what could we get in 2020 with qualified wages? We could get up to $5,000 per
employee
per year. In 2021, what we could do is we could get up to $28,000, $7,000.
Well, $7,000 a quarter.
And as long as we had in each quarter $10,000 of qualified wages.
Right.
So this whole presentation, it's going to get a little complex, but all we're trying to do is to show you, if you're doing it yourself or some provider is doing your ERC for the credit, then this is probably the biggest item. So what is related party? What's related family? I just gave you one with my son-in-law, John. He's related to me. I own 100% of the company. He owns nothing. He just works for me. But under this credit, he's disqualified because we're related. So let's kind of dive a little bit into what is this related party. And the thing we need to look at is relationship. Debbie, I'll tell you what I'm going to do so that this is a very specific list. So I've kind of penciled out here, you see on the screen, there's some of my notes. But when you look at this and read down through this list, so if we look at those, a child or a descendant of a child, father, mother, or an ancestor of either. It sounds to me like it's either the family tree or the family circle. So as we go through this, here's what I want to do. We're going to take one owner, okay? We're going to take one owner and show you all the relationships. But what happens is, if there's more than one owner and they're related, then this kind of goes 3D. But let's keep it simple. And the thing about it is that we've got to look at relationship, or what they call a term attribute. But the thing about it today, in this video, we're only going to look at relationships through family. At the end of the presentation, we're going to briefly talk about what happens if the same person, I have more than one LLC. Those are all related. But am I 50% or more? Because remember, we can be related, but if we can't aggregate this all to the family having more than 50, but the problem with it is our small business, how many small businesses do we do that it isn't a family-oriented business? 95, 98%. So let's start this. So what we're going to do is, first thing we're going to do is, in the middle of this, I'm going to put an H and a W. We have a married couple. They own the company. One or the other or both, because under 267 I refer to, and forget code sections, but they're considered one.
Right.
So what's our list go? This is when now again I want to say, why are we doing this? we're doing this at the point at second base. What is qualified wages? We're already a qualified business. Now we're looking at qualified wages, and in the qualified wages, we've already eliminated any PPP wages, so we're not double dipping. So now we've got, here's our list. We want to get the qualified wages total so we can go fill out the reports at third base. So let's go.
So at this point, we have to see if they have any kids.
Okay, so I'm going to draw a line down, just like tree. So I'm going to put children in here, a child. Okay.
And then their parents, are they employing their husband and wife's parents or
Okay.
step parents?
But here's my question though. Doesn't it say child or?
Any child of theirs.
And
So we can go with grandchildren.
yeah. Okay, that's good. I'll just put that. Grandchildren. Great-grandchildren. It's descendants. I'm going to start abbreviating. Okay? So that's going that way. So the point of it is, and if they have, let's say they have another child, they have 3 children. All right? Then it's down their tree also. See how quick this can get very complex? So now, what's our next one?
Parents, father, mother.
Father, mother, okay?
Or it says an ancestor of either of those.
So then what
Then
it
we
says, let's say we have a father, mother here, and a father, mother here. They also count. At least I can understand it goes everybody down the ladder, down the tree, and everything up the tree. So this is like the tree trunk. So it's all the roots in the system, and it's all the people in the trees. So now, what's our next one?
Well, one side note is let's not forget step. So if there's any step parents or step children, they qualify.
So we're going to put up
They are a
here.
related party.
So we're going to put step. So no matter how, if they're step parents, step grandparents, if they're step children, grandchildren, or any descendants of that. So now we have now full bloodline. We have step.
Yep.
What's
so then
next?
brothers, sisters, stepbrother, stepbrother, step sisters.
Okay, so I'm gonna go this way because the husband has brothers and sisters and has step, right? Brothers and sisters. Okay. With that, then we're gonna go over here on the other side, and we're gonna have brothers and sisters and step brothers and sisters. Now here's what I want to do here. I want to stop for a minute. We are going to do some examples after we get this decision tree drawn out, this family tree. Then we're going to come back and we're going to work through, 4 or 5 examples together. So please stay with us because all of a sudden, it kind of sounds like it's getting crazy, but we're not done with our list. So what's the next one?
Niece and nephews.
Oh, wow, that's over here and over here. So we got nieces and nephews. Nieces and nephews.
Then we have aunts and uncles.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. So over here, we got aunts and uncles. And over here, we got aunts and uncles. Okay?
And then we have all the in-laws. So if you're an in-law of any of these people.
In-law. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get this on here. So this here we could put in-law,
Son-in-law, daughter-in-law, father-in-law, mother-in-law.
in-law. So in-law, in-law, in-law. I'll just put it here. So at that point in time, what it's really saying here, are we done with everybody?
Yep, that's their list for now.
Okay, so up here we have a little family here. We have a little family here. Wait a minute. That's only if they have one brother or one sister. In each one of these cases, like when I put child, child, and child, it's any of their descendants. Okay. Up
Right.
here, if they have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, then you've got 5 of these.
Right.
I gave the example. I own a company. Okay. John, in the opening, John was dating my daughter. We had a nice conversation about this morning, so I guess we're both still liking each other. The thing about it, he wasn't in this circle. He wasn't in here. So what happens is he then marries Laura, let's change colors here. See how we're putting action to this. So Laura, but I got this in-law, so this is a child, so I have an in-law named John. He made it on this picture, he made it on the page, so now what happens is with him and myself, he now is disqualified because
Right.
he's related. So here's a big, I think, takeaway. When you think about related parties in the tax world, you think about, we always look at related entities. You know, how do you allocate depreciation? How do you allocate taxes? We're not talking about that. We're talking in the family, we're talking about people. And in doing so, it's the fact that what happens is when he went to work for me, he was okay. But when he got married and became an in-law, then what happens
Right.
is
His wages would be disqualified.
yeah. So, and that was a sole proprietor LLC, for example. The other thing that I would say is that let's look at another example. Let's see, I cheated here and I want to make sure. So I was a sole proprietor. Let's talk about an S corp. What happens there? We've got a mother. You're working, you got a company, and your daughter goes to work. They're included. You've got a sister-in-law. Oh, wait a minute. It's one of those words. See, it's the in-law, it is the step, it is the ancestor, it's the decedent. See, here's my point. This saying, every word we're doing on here is a non-tax. Brother-in-law, sister-in-law, step-brother-in-law, step-sister-in-law. What about a half-brother, half-sister?
Those
Yeah.
two.
So I technically need to put on here 1/2 brother-sister and 1/2 brother-sister. And down here, 1/2. See how this is working? It's so consistent around. So let's do another one. Let's really make it a stretch. We have a company that has 3 cousins. And let's say it's 3 cousins and it's from these 3 children here, okay? Each one of them, they have a child, and a child. So there are 3 cousins. They don't have the same parents. So we have, here's an owner, here's an owner, and here's an owner, okay? They own a third, and a third. They individually own less than
50%.
right. But let's say, well, you know, Grandpa's got a little knowledge. So what they're going to do is we're going to up here and get Grandpa, because they're all the descendants here. Well, what happens is we have to look through this tree. So is Grandpa a grandparent? It would be a great-grandparent. Or
So
let's
all 3 of them.
all 3 of them. Or it could be this one be a grandparent. But what happens if it's right here, the grandpa? This would be a great-grandpa. Here'd be a grandpa. They're all 3 related. Because of that, Grandpa's wages, and I think here's the point. Grandpa's wages is 100% because whoever's getting the W-2, because only W-2s qualify. It's only wages. But because Grandpa is related to the 3 grandchildren. See, they're cousins.
Right, so
They're
his
okay.
wages are disqualified.
But his wages are disqualified.
Theirs are fine.
Yeah, but what happens here is again disqualified. So what happens is if any of the moms or dads, and down here in this level right here, if one of the parents of this one works, well, what is that? That's a nephew or a niece.
Right.
That one's a nephew or niece. So guess what? We got 100% right here. So in this diagram of a third, a third, and a third, they individually own a third. But anybody that hits this tree is going to be disqualified.
Yes.
And so what I look at, I'm going to put this over here where we can see it. We're looking at this list here, okay, to our right. And what we've done is we've drawn this list into a visual, and then we did some examples of that. No matter how you go about this, it comes down, if you're doing your own ERC credit, or you're having your accountant or your tax person do your credit, or you're having, there's companies out there now in 20 and 30%. Here we do it by quarter. We don't do that, but there's companies, I had a client the other day get called, a company wanted to do their ERC for 30%. Well, we were already doing them. That wasn't the point, but I just couldn't believe it. But here's the question I give you. Ask who's doing your ERC. Explain related parties to me. If they can't explain related parties, this could be the biggest mistake ever because you're getting credit on wages that do not qualify. And I just can't say this enough. And Debbie here, you're kind of the lead on us doing ERCs for many clients and many new clients. And the thing about it, I think the way to do this is to go down the payroll list and say, tell me the relationship. Instead of you, the client, looking at this, the other flip of this, let's think about it. If it's bloodline, full, okay? If it's half, it counts. If it's a child or a descendant, down the tree. If it's a parent, up the tree, or ancestry, okay? Brothers and sisters, step brothers and sisters, in-law. Ask them if there's a relationship, and if you hear the word half-brother, hear the word in-law, son-in-law, father-in-law, mother-in-law, they all count. Now, here's the thing, is that when you do this, and the big question, as I mentioned earlier, when this first came out, this ERC and the credit, and looked at related parties, the one thing that you don't see in that list, and that I cut and paste that out of the law, you know what's not on our list we went through? Husband and wife. So that became our big question. Right. So what do? You go to your law. I could cite the code section, but guess what appears in the related party rules that is cited in these regulations and guidance? Husband and wife. It says spouse. So when this first came out, I heard this debate on whether it counted. Yes, husband and wife counts. But the thing you got to realize, again, the way to look at this is to really describe each employee. Well, that's my cousin. Well, it's cousin. We got to find out if anybody else is working, because then we could disqualify. So So the thing we look at is, let's say we have. Let's think of a couple, maybe at least one more example. After you think whatever you think of, you automatically have the answer now.
Right. The answer's there.
The answer is right there. So I think the takeaway, you can see this. I think also that what we have to look at is first get qualified. First get to all the wages, get PPP out first. Then look at the qualified wages, and then go down through it and say, is there a relationship? Because, go on.
I was just saying, your company can still qualify for the ERC credit. You just have to remove all these related party wages.
Right. I want to look at kind of a couple of takeaways. We've got to watch the attribute rules. Remember, if you go to talk to a tax person, they generally say, well, attributes apply to ownership. In this case, the greater than 50% ownership is an aggregation of everybody in the family. So, for example, because, and I want to go back, and here's where I was going to go a while ago. We have these 3 cousins here. If that's the only people involved in the company, then they're not disqualified. But the minute they hire somebody in the family, and see, they've got to look down their tree. See, it could be their child, okay? See what I'm saying? This thing just gets, and it could be their child and their child. So it's not just looking up, but it's also, at that point in time, you put each cousin in here and see if they qualify. And really, for this video, we wanted to look at the individual, but we have a lot of clients that have more than one company.
Right.
At that point in time, you draw the same thing, but put the company in here, then you start to look at ownership and who works for them. So for example, I have Gray Farms, and we have AGC CPA. Well, because those two are related through ownership, then what happens is if any family member works for either one of them working for it is going to disqualify them for the ERC credit in all the companies. So we looked here at one company, one owner to start out, husband and wife. But as you can see, when we got down to 3 here, it's all of their attributes. So again, the test is greater than 50%, but you're looking at the employees and their wages. Remember, we're trying to get, for example, in 2021, $10,000 of qualified wages is a $7,000 credit. I want that for all my clients. But if somebody walks in the door and go, let's do an example, and you give me the answer. You got the cheat sheet. Debbie, I've got a company and I got 2 employees. I didn't get PPP. Oh, by the way, I know I qualify because I've been shut down on my receipts. So I'm shut down for this quarter. Remember, the test on this is by quarter. So we're going to talk about quarter. I'm a qualified business at first base. So what I'm going to do is go over to second. Now, you're doing my ERC.
So the first thing I'm going to ask is, of your 2 employees that you have, what are their relationship to you?
Well, it's William, my son, and my daughter, Laura. Okay. How much qualified wages do I have?
0.
Well, But see, and that's what I'm saying, if you really apply this to small business, there's a whole lot of small businesses that there could be people going, oh, we qualify. Again, I cannot say enough. This is the biggest mistake going on in this whole arena. But what qualified? It was my daughter, it was my son. Okay, I come in, I've got 5 employees. We've qualified business in the quarter we're talking about, so we're second base getting qualified wages. If you're gonna ask me anything, I have 5 employees.
Well, then what are their relationships?
I got my son, I got my daughter, I've got my great uncle, because he's the one who invented the widget. I got my girlfriend, and then this neighbor across the road, he's just really good. And so that's my 5 employees.
So we could take a look at the girlfriend and the neighbor.
So you're gonna tell me
The rest or?
But what if I say, well, it's girlfriend. Well, Larry, you think about getting married? Yeah, we're getting married September 25th, and we're here in September. What happens?
Likely disqualified.
The minute we get married, we're related. We're back to this husband and wife.
Right.
So you also have to ask about events.
Right.
So every quarter you got to re-ask, especially and that's why I started off with John getting married to Laura. So again, I hope we've had some fun here. I hope we've explained it. We've repeated some things, but something so important. This is the most important screw up. It's the biggest mistake, and it can be done so innocently because all it refers to is in the guidance is related parties are disqualified. I mean, can you see how easy these can all be messed up?
Just make sure that whoever is doing your ERC credit paperwork for you, that they know about the related parties in your business.
And again, the very best question you asked, and Debbie thinks right. In conclusion, if you're going to do your own ERC 941s or 7200s, or your accountant, your tax person, or somebody that's, out on the internet says we can do it for you, the first question you ask is explain related parties to me. And if they don't talk to you about what's on this piece of paper, then I recommend they not do your ERC. With that, stay tuned, push the button. We want you to subscribe and follow, and see you next time.